Okay, check this out. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, is suing the police department. Sergeant Mattingly is suing Kenneth Walker because he shot him. So today, let's look at the evidence. Hey, welcome to the channel. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and you are invited to the Brody's Bunch, where you are the jury of today's content. Now, I'm a former law enforcement officer, former prosecutor, and I am a licensed attorney. Now, for all of you new people, if it's your first time here, don't forget to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel if you like what you hear. Let's unpack this. Oh my God, this is a lot. March 13th, 2020, police executed a warrant on Breonna Taylor's apartment. And police claim that they knocked and announced themselves when they executed this search warrant. Kenneth Walker, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend at the time, who was inside the residence, claimed that they heard loud bangs at the door, but did not hear police announce themselves. Listen to his claims.
Take us to that moment when your life really changed forever.
It was a loud bang at the door. You know, nobody was responding when we were saying, "Who is it?"
You all did ask, who is it?
Several times, both of us. You know, there's no response.
You know, the police say that they said several times, it's the police.
If they knock on the door and say who it was, we can hear them. It's dead silent. I know 1,000,000% sure that nobody identified themselves.
Now, also in that interview, he claimed that the TV was on because him and his girlfriend, Breonna Taylor, were watching TV. Now, that's easily verified because here's video of the SWAT team going into the apartment after the raid, and you can see clearly that the TV is on. Watch.
Through the apartment, the team clears every room. In Taylor's bedroom, the TV is still playing. Hang on. Kenneth Walker told police he and Taylor were watching a movie in bed when police came to the door.
Now, Mr. Walker claims that he heard police knock, but he did not hear them announce. While police officers claim they did knock and they did announce. Here is Sergeant Mattingly explaining it.
So we get up. I remember banging on the door. It's open hand, hard smacks, bam, 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 bam. First time didn't announce. Just hoping she would come to the door so everything was quiet, neighbors wouldn't come out.
Can you hear anything from inside the apartment?
Not at that
when you
point.
do that? Okay.
Not at that point. So after the first bang, nothing happened. I banged again. I yelled, "Please search warrant, please search warrant." You're yelling this.
How many times do you yell that?
Probably 3 times each with each bang. There was a total of 6 bangs, 6 different knocks at the door while we're doing this.
There were 7 officers on the scene that night. One said he thought he heard movement inside the apartment.
He said, "Stop, I can hear somebody coming up to the door." So we stop, we listen, nobody says anything, we yell again, "Please search warrant, open the door if you're there, please search warrant." And finally I look back at my lieutenant, who's in the stack back here, and he goes, "Go ahead and hit it."
Even as you're hitting the door with
Yelling,
the ram,
"Please
you're
search warrant."
yelling.
Yes, everybody at this point.
Everybody.
Because that's what we do.
All 7 of you.
All 7. That I know of. It sounded like it. That's the typical how it goes every time.
The main issue in this case is whether police not only knocked, but whether they announced themselves. Or you're going to say, Nate, why is that important? Well, because of Kentucky law. Kentucky law makes it an important issue. So before we get into the law, I have to always say, this is not legal advice, because you're going to have the person go out there and be like, "Hey, Nate said this on YouTube, and he's a lawyer." Listen, this is not legal advice. I don't practice in Kentucky, so take it for what it's worth. So, from my reading of Kentucky law, they have what is known as the Castle Doctrine. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the Castle Doctrine, how it works, click on this video up here, and it goes over the Castle Doctrine and the intricacies of Kentucky law involving the Castle Doctrine. So this is just going to be a quick review. But essentially, if someone is breaking into your home, then you are allowed to use deadly physical force to stop them. And if you do, you are protected under Kentucky law. Matter of fact, you're so protected that you can't be arrested, prosecuted, anything, because you're defending your home. It actually involves 2 laws. It involves both the Castle Doctrine, because he was inside the residence, and it involves a stand your ground law, which saying you don't have a duty to retreat. If somebody's using force against you, or deadly physical force, you don't have to go run away. You can stand your ground and use deadly physical force to terminate that threat. Under Kentucky law, Penal Code Section 503.85, justification and criminal and civil immunity. What this statute essentially does is that if you are justified in using force under either the Castle Doctrine or Stand Your Ground, state law says that you are immune from criminal prosecution and all civil liability. That means when I say immune from criminal prosecution, the law makes it clear you can't be arrested, you can't be detained, you can't be held in custody, you can't be charged, and you can't be prosecuted. You are immune from all of those things. And let's not forget, you're also immune from civil liability. But as always, there are exceptions. Now, the main one here is what I like to call the police officer's exception. Now, simply put, if the state can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the person knew or should have known that the police were the people entering the premises, then that person cannot use force to stop the police from entering. That's an exception to the Castle Doctrine. If you are in your home and you either know or have reason to know that it's the police who are breaking in, serving a warrant, for instance, and you use deadly physical force or any physical force against them, the Castle Doctrine, Stand Your Ground, those are not available to you. Now, how would you know they were police, right? How would you know that it's police coming through? Well, if they're knocking and announcing and screaming, police, police, search warrant, that's how you'd know. So that's why this announce piece is so critical to this case. Now, as the jury, I'm just going to lay out the facts, and you'll decide if there's enough to prosecute Mr. Walker or if there's enough where Mr. Walker should be immune from both civil and criminal liability. On September 1st, Mr. Walker filed a civil lawsuit seeking immunity from prosecution based on the Castle Doctrine and claiming that he was a victim of police misconduct because they wrongfully and illegally arrested him. Remember, he was using the Castle Doctrine, so his arrest was wrong and illegal. He says he was detained, charged, and prosecuted despite having the protection of Kentucky law. That's what his lawsuit claims. He was falsely arrested because he's immune under the Castle Doctrine. Kenneth Walker's arguments are pretty simple. And let's not forget, he was charged with attempted murder of a police officer. And those charges were dropped. Sergeant Mattingly, who was shot by Kenneth Walker, countersued, claiming that Kenneth Walker assaulted him, he battered him, and he caused him intentional infliction of emotional distress. And Sergeant Mattingly claims that police both knocked and announced, and that Mr. Walker knew that they were police and shot anyway. Now that we know what both sides are arguing, let's look at the evidence and test both claims. As the jury, we need to talk about the witnesses. Now, each side, let's look at the police department's witnesses. Here we have Detective Mattingly and 6 other officers at the scene who all claim that they knocked and announced themselves.
And you're yelling.
Yes, everybody at this point.
Everybody.
Because that's what we do.
All 7 of you.
All 7. That I know of. It sounded like it. That's the typical how it goes every time.
Banging at the door and she said, "Who is it?" And they just started shooting.
No, we down 3 times. Police search warrant.
There's somebody with that.
Also, the police department has another witness, and this witness's name is Aaron Sharp. This is his picture from the New York Times. In the New York Times article about this incident, this is what they write. Aaron Sharpie had just left his 2-year-old in the care of a woman living directly upstairs from Miss Taylor's apartment. Before the police lined up, he had ran upstairs to pick up his sleeping toddler. He had just stepped out onto the exterior staircase when he saw the officers. Before they ordered him back inside, Mr. Sharpie said he heard at least 3 loud bangs as they knocked on Mrs. Taylor's door and heard one of the officers scream, "Police!" a single time. And he was emphatic that they said it only once. Now, since we're talking about Mr. Sharp's credibility, there's something that you have to know. Mr. Sharp has changed his story. When he was initially interviewed by police, he said something different. This is what he said.
Did you hear them identify themselves either to you or to anyone else?
I saw the uniform on there, so I know. And when I looked through the window, I saw it was a lot of police cars, and I saw the armor car was parking on the left hand side. I thought it told me to get inside.
Well,
so when I went through the window, I saw the.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Is this before the shooting or after the shooting?
They were before the shooting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear anyone identify themselves as police?
No, nobody identified themselves.
Now it's up to you. You have to judge the credibility of Mr. Sharp and the 7 witnesses at the scene. Sorry about the break in the action. If you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. But most of you have been sending me messages concerned about YouTube flagging most of my videos and demonetizing a lot of my content. Yes, my videos are not being monetized, and I definitely need your support to keep this type of information going. So if you like what you hear and you like the way these breakdowns go and you like the way the facts are being presented where you make your own decision, you can hit me up on Patreon, PayPal, all those different funding sources. I would really appreciate it, and it helps me keep the lights on so I can continue to bring you this great content. So for those of you who have been concerned, thank you so much. I'm doing okay. YouTube still allows me to upload for as long as I can, so I will continue to do that. And I want to thank those of you who have been supporting me and continue to support this channel and what I do. Thank you again. Back to the video. So now we got to talk about Mr. Kenneth Walker and what evidence that he has to support his claim. Now, again, let's just go over his claims real quick. His claim is that he didn't hear anything, right? He only heard knocks. He didn't hear them announce. And some of the reasons why he didn't hear them announce. It is not enough if police just say they announced. We now have to reconcile whether Mr. Walker heard that announcement. So even if police are out there screaming police, if Mr. Walker doesn't hear it, then the castle doctrine would still apply, right? Because they can be screaming out there all they want. If he has a party going on or loud music or whatever, and they bust in and he doesn't know, then he's still allowed to defend himself. So that's something that you as a jury have to reconcile with too. It's not enough, even if you believe police did knock and announce. You still are going to have to reconcile whether Mr. Walker could hear that announcement. First, the TV. As we saw earlier, Mr. Walker said they were watching a movie in bed. So somebody's knocking at your door. They may be yelling at the door. But if you're watching a movie in bed, as we see from this video, then is it going to be less likely or more likely you're going to hear somebody announcing themselves at the door?
Through the apartment, the team clears every room. In Taylor's bedroom, the TV is still playing.
We also have 11 witnesses. 11 witnesses who the news media has said did not hear police announce themselves. Here's one of the headlines. 12 witnesses say cops didn't ID themselves, Breonna Taylor Reid, attorney says. Now, you may have heard this too. I have so many messages, even on my Breonna Taylor video, about this. You see people all saying there were 12 witnesses, there were this, and everybody's saying that all of these witnesses didn't hear the police announce. So that leads you to believe the police didn't announce. First, here's Michael Strahan using that same argument to Sergeant Mattingly.
And that doesn't change.
Kenneth Walker said that he and Breonna were screaming, "Who is it?" Said they never heard any announcement that it was the police. And what do you say to that?
Maybe he didn't.
But there are also 11 neighbors who said the same thing that he said.
Those 11 neighbors also said we didn't knock. Kenneth Walker says we knocked. The other witness says we knocked. So if you didn't hear us knock, you're not going to hear us announce.
Now, this is where things get interesting. The media had us believing that these witnesses heard police knock, but did not hear police announce. All 11 witnesses didn't hear anything. They didn't hear police knock. They didn't hear police announce. And the reason why is they weren't in a position to hear those things. Let's say, for instance, I'm in my house with noise-canceling headphones on my ears. Someone is knocking on my neighbor's door. Police are knocking on my neighbor's door. And after it's all over, the police department comes and asks me, "Nate, did you hear police announce themselves when they raided the door?" And I'm going to say, "No, I didn't hear police announce themselves." And then the newspaper's going to run off and say, "Hey, the guy next door says he didn't hear police announce themselves." But if I didn't hear the police knock either, I didn't even hear police were even out there at the door. You see, so this is where I think facts matter. And I want to present to you the facts. So the media has been very, very good at just asking, "Did you hear police announce?" Instead, they should be asking, "Did you hear anything?" before the gunshots. Now, because I can't have witnesses sitting there testifying and lawyers cross-examine them, we do have our interviews, witness interviews of people who were at the scene. Now, I'm going to play an interview from Vice where they interview one of the neighbors, one of these 12 people who say they didn't hear police announce themselves. So in this interview, you're listening for two things: whether this person heard the police knock, whether this person heard the police announce.
Mattingly claims he and the other officers announced themselves. But so far, nobody else has corroborated that.
Did you hear the police announce themselves?
No, they didn't say police or nothing, because if I would have knew it was the police, my mama, she would have never called the police from the jump. I heard come out and I heard shots. So my mama, she runs in the room, she's like, oh my God, they shooting, get down, get down. So she's calling the police.
911 operator guide, where's your emergency?
Please get a police out here. They are shooting back.
Okay, how many shots do you hear?
Man, they just shot about 7 or 8 times. They right here in front of my fucking house. And I got my grandbaby and my kids in here.
I'm hearing them say reload. Bop, 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 bop. They finally cut the lights on to let us know it was the police. So I'm like, Mama, the police is out here. So she hangs up with them. The police came all wrong. They came with undercover clothes, undercover cars. They didn't announce themselves or none of that. They did it heartless.
Very deceptive, huh? Did this witness hear the police knock? Did they hear the police announce? For instance, the police asked me, did I hear anybody announce? I would say no, but you would expect that because I'm in New York. I'm in a bad vantage point, right? I wouldn't have been able to hear anything. So out of those 11 witnesses, they didn't hear knocks. They didn't hear announces. They heard nothing until the shots were fired. Now, as a jury, you have heard all the evidence. Do you believe the 7 officers and the 1 witness who was outside the apartment who heard police knock and announce but changed his story? Or do you believe Mr. Walker, who said he didn't hear police announce because the TV was on, and the 11 other witnesses who say they didn't hear the police knock or announce? So understand the stakes. If police did not announce, and if Mr. Walker did not hear that announcement, then Mr. Walker is likely immune from both criminal and civil liability. And Sergeant Mattingly's lawsuit is going to be dismissed. But if police did announce and Mr. Walker did hear them, then Kenneth Walker is going to be prosecuted, and Mr. Mattingly's lawsuit against Kenneth Walker can go forward. So it is your time to deliberate. Question 1, did police announce themselves? Is the evidence more compelling for one side or the other? Question 2, did police announce themselves when Mr. Walker could hear the announcement, got the TV on? And last question, which side do you believe? Do you believe the 11 witnesses that said they heard no announcement? Or do you believe the 1 witness who said he did? If you deliberated and don't let me know in the comment section how you came out, how would I ever know? Now, to be fair, I read every comment. But I don't respond to these comments because I don't want people to feel like if I respond to one comment or I like a comment, that is the way I'm thinking, and to change your mind or to get you to think one way, or, oh, Nate thinks the police are correct, so that's probably the correct answer. No, this is totally up to you. These are the facts and the evidence in the case. Only person who can come up with an opinion is you, based on the facts in front of you. Now, for all you nerds out there, all the links to the lawsuits, to the videos, to the clips, they're all inside the description. So again, if you want to go look through this stuff again, you want to hear what Mr. Sharp said earlier, you want to hear what Mr. Walker said, or if you want to see the evidence, it's all in the description. So you don't have to make the decision now after watching the video. You can go and relook at some of this evidence to see yourself. And as always, thank you for stopping by. My name is Nate, lawyer, YouTuber, and I'm out of here. See you in the comment section.